You work hard on something and then someone comes along and says, this could use a lot of work, or even worse, this is terrible, and boom, it hits you like a ton of bricks. Criticism doesn't have to break you. It might sting for a bit, but if you handle it the right way, you can turn that sting into something positive. In fact, learning how to process and use criticism to your advantage can make you stronger, smarter, and more resilient in the long run. It can even become one of the most powerful tools for your personal and professional growth. And let's be honest here, we all know life isn't perfect, right? People aren't perfect, we aren't perfect. And guess what? That's perfectly fine. What matters is how we handle those bumps in the road, especially when it comes to the way others perceive us and the feedback they give us. Today, I'm going to talk you through how to deal with criticism without letting it tear you down. I'm not saying you'll never feel bad about it. Of course you will. That's just human nature. But the goal here is to use criticism as fuel instead of letting it derail you. So let's break it down and really dive into the art of taking feedback without taking it personally. So I'm going to level with you. When I first started creating content, I thought I had everything figured out. I had this idea in my head that if I worked hard enough, people would love everything I made. I was excited, full of ideas, and super proud of what I was putting out there. I genuinely believed that people would appreciate my work. But then, as soon as I hit that upload button and put myself out there for the world to see, bam, the feedback started rolling in. And let me tell you, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I got a ton of nice comments, sure, but there were also people telling me things like, this is boring, you're not funny, this is too long, and even some more harsh stuff. It hit me. It stung. I'm not gonna lie. At first, I thought, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm wasting my time. I was crushed. Have you ever felt like that? Like everything you worked hard on was just getting ripped apart? It's a terrible feeling. But then, I realized something huge. Everyone faces criticism. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a content creator, an entrepreneur, or just a regular person trying to get by. Criticism is part of the process. It's how we grow. The key isn't avoiding it. It's learning how to deal with it in a way that makes you better, not bitter. It's all about how you handle the feedback that comes your way. And once I understood that, I started viewing criticism less like an attack and more like a challenge. Here's the kicker. Criticism doesn't have to break you. It doesn't have to make you second guess your whole existence. If you know how to process it, you can take that negative energy and use it to level up. Seriously. So today we're gonna go over the different ways you can deal with criticism. I'm gonna break down some practical steps, share my own experiences, and give you a little insight into why it's important not to take things personally. I know that might sound easier said than done, but trust me, you can do it. And once you learn these techniques, you'll be able to handle feedback like a pro, and guess what? You'll probably start looking forward to it too. The first step when you get criticized, pause, take a breath. I know it sounds simple, but it's one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. When you're hit with criticism, your body and mind naturally want to go into defense mode. You want to argue back, explain yourself, or even just ignore the feedback altogether. I get it, it's like that fight or flight response kicking in. But trust me, acting out of anger or frustration won't get you anywhere productive. It's just going to make the situation worse. Instead, pause for a second, breathe, give yourself a moment to process what's being said before reacting. I used to get caught up in the moment, responding with things like, that's not true, or you don't understand. But here's what I learned. A reaction is different from a response. A reaction is emotional, immediate, and often not well thought out. A response, on the other hand, is measured, calm, and focused. When I first started getting criticism, I wanted to respond immediately and let everyone know I wasn't as bad as they thought. But when I took that breath, I realized I was giving myself space to see the bigger picture. I started realizing that I wasn't perfect, and that's okay. No one is perfect. And here's a little tip. You don't need to respond immediately. Take your time. If it's something serious, sleep on it for a night. If it's a small comment, let it sit for a few hours. When you give yourself that space, you come back to the situation with a much clearer mind. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to bed feeling frustrated and then woke up thinking, actually that feedback makes sense. That space, that pause helps separate your emotions from the situation. Instead of reacting emotionally, you start thinking clearly. And that's the first step toward using criticism to grow. So next time you're hit with feedback that feels harsh, don't rush into defense mode. Take a deep breath and allow yourself time to process. You'll be surprised at how much better you feel afterward. The next step, actively listen to the feedback you're receiving. I know it's easy to tune out when you feel attacked, but the key to handling criticism is really understanding what's being said. You need to listen to the feedback, not just hear it. Here's the thing. Listening actively means engaging with the feedback, not just sitting there thinking about how you're going to respond. Really pay attention to what the person is saying. Are they giving you constructive criticism or just venting their frustrations? Ask clarifying questions if you don't understand something. Sometimes people give feedback in a way that isn't clear, or they make assumptions that aren't entirely accurate. Instead of guessing what they mean, ask for specifics. specifics. Say something like, "Can you explain what you mean by that?" Or "What would you like to see changed?" It sounds so simple, but I promise you, asking questions changes everything. It turns a one-sided critique into a conversation. For example, when my boss used to critique my work, I'd ask, "What part of the report would you like me to focus on more?" Or, "How can I improve this section to make it clear?" Doing that shifts the focus from just fixing what's wrong to actively improving and collaborating. In the world of content creation, people might tell you things like, "Your audio isn't clear enough," or "I didn't get your point." Instead of taking that as an insult, engage. Ask, "What part was hard to understand?" Or, "Where do you think the audio could be clearer?" This helps you pinpoint the exact areas that need work rather than just feeling like it's a general attack on your abilities. I've learned that asking for specifics makes the feedback a lot easier to work with. It takes it from vague criticism to actual actionable advice. And when you've got clear action steps, you can improve faster than ever. Here's one of the biggest things I had to learn. Don't tie your worth to the criticism. Criticism is not about who you are as a person. It's about what you did or didn't do. Let me tell you, this one took me a while to get right. It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking, if they don't like my work, that means they don't like me. But that's just not true. The feedback is about what you've done, not about who you are. Think of it like this. You can't judge a book by its cover, right? Well, you can't judge yourself by a single piece of feedback. So if someone criticizes your work, don't immediately think it's a reflection of your whole character. Your work doesn't define you. This is especially tough for creatives, entrepreneurs, or anyone putting their personal work out there. It can feel like a personal attack because we've invested time, energy, and part of ourselves into that work. But here's the reality. The feedback is about your work, not who you are as a person. When I first started creating content, I took every critique personally. I thought if someone didn't like my video, they didn't like me. But once I learned to separate the two, I stopped taking things so personally. Instead, I started thinking, okay, this person doesn't like this specific thing, but that doesn't mean they don't like me. And that mindset shift helped me grow way faster. I know it's tough, but remember, criticism is feedback on what you did, not who you are. You're still amazing, even if someone doesn't love every single thing you create. Now here's where things start to shift. Reframe criticism as an opportunity. Instead of viewing criticism as a roadblock, think of it as a tool for growth. Every time someone gives you feedback, it's like they're handing you a map that shows you how to improve. For example, let's say someone critiques your writing, and they point out some areas where it's weak. Instead of thinking, "Oh no, I'm terrible at this," think, "Okay, this is a chance for me to improve. What can I do differently next time?" For me, this mindset shift made a huge difference. I started looking at criticism as a way to level up, not a reason to quit. I'll be honest, when I first started, I hated hearing feedback. But once I reframed it as an opportunity to get better, it stopped feeling like a punch in the gut. It became part of my growth process. Now here's where things really start to shift. Reframe criticism as an opportunity. Instead of seeing criticism as a roadblock, think of it as a tool for growth. Every piece of feedback is a chance to get better at what you do. Honestly, once I shifted my mindset about this, I started welcoming criticism instead of avoiding it. It's all about how you frame the feedback you receive. When someone says, "Your video could use more editing," instead of feeling like it's a personal jab, think of it as, "Great, now I know what to improve next time." That's the kind of mindset that will help you evolve. This applies to any area of your life. If you're in a traditional job, maybe your boss gives you feedback like your presentation wasn't clear. You could go home frustrated, thinking, "I'm terrible at presentations." Or you could think, "All right, I'll work on my clarity for the next one." Same feedback, but your reaction is what will determine whether you grow from it or stay stuck. I've been in both positions. I remember one time after uploading a video, I received a comment saying, "This could have been tighter. It's dragging on." And instead of just feeling like I was failing, I asked myself, how can I make this more engaging? What can I do differently next time to keep viewers hooked? And you know what happened? My next video was shorter, sharper, and more to the point, and people loved it. I know it's hard, but embracing criticism as a tool for improvement gives you a new level of control. Instead of feeling like a victim of feedback, you start to see it as a chance to sharpen your skills. And here's the thing, every time you learn from a critique, you grow. The more you practice this, the less personal feedback feels. Now, let's talk about something that can be tricky, how to filter out the noise. Not all criticism is created equal. Some feedback is incredibly useful while others are just, well, noise. And if you listen to everything, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Here's the deal. Not everyone has your best interests at heart, and sometimes people just don't know what they're talking about. Have you ever gotten a comment or piece of feedback that just felt off? Maybe it was vague, personal, or just downright mean. That's the noise you don't need to pay attention to. For example, let's say you view Eupolis, you've been working on a side project and you get a comment like, well, this idea is dumb. You'll never make it. That's not helpful criticism. It's someone else projecting their own insecurities onto you. But if someone says, I think your idea could work better if you focused on a different market, that's specific, actionable advice you can use. When you're on the receiving end of criticism, ask yourself, is this helpful? Can I apply this to improve what I'm doing? If the answer is no, then it's time to move on. Here's a trick I use. Does the feedback make me feel empowered to do better? Or does it make me feel small and defeated? I remember getting feedback early on that said, your content isn't relatable to people like me. It was vague and I didn't really know what they meant by it. Instead of just letting it ruin my day, I chose to ask more questions. What exactly made it hard to relate? Was it the tone, the topics, the approach? And from there, I got a better understanding of what I could change. Sometimes people don't even know how to explain what they want, so don't be afraid to ask. But if you get criticism that feels mean or unnecessary, just let it go. That's the noise. And trust me, filtering out the noise is key for your mental health and growth. Criticism can sting no matter how much you try to distance yourself from it. And you know what? It's okay to feel hurt. Seriously, it's totally normal. The problem is when we let that hurt take over and keep us stuck in a negative spiral. That's where self-compassion comes in. Instead of beating yourself up and thinking, I'm not good enough or I'll never get better, treat yourself with the same kindness you'd treat a friend. Imagine a friend came to you and said, I messed up. I feel terrible about it. You wouldn't tear them down, right? You'd probably say something like, hey, it's okay. You're still learning. You got this. So why don't we give ourselves that same kindness when we face criticism? When I first started out, I'd get feedback that made me question everything I was doing. There were days when I was so discouraged that I'd sit there scrolling through my feedback, getting caught up in every negative comment. But here's what I've learned. You are not your mistakes. Everyone messes up. Everyone gets things wrong sometimes, and that's okay. One thing I started doing is when I receive criticism, I take a moment to breathe and remind myself, I'm not perfect, and that's okay. I don't need to be flawless. Perfection is an illusion, and striving for it will just lead to burnout and self-doubt. So instead of giving into that voice telling me I'm terrible, I choose to be kind to myself. Practicing self-compassion is all about acknowledging that you're human. You're learning, you're growing, and no one is expecting you to be perfect. If you've made a mistake, that doesn't define you. What defines you is your ability to learn from it and keep going. Building emotional resilience is the key to not letting criticism derail you. What does that mean though? Basically, it's the ability to bounce back after something tough happens. It's about being able to hear criticism and not let it knock you down for long. Emotional resilience doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, practice, and a willingness to sit with discomfort. But once you build it, you'll be able to handle criticism with a lot more ease. One way to build emotional resilience is to create a positive feedback loop. This is something I've done over time. For every piece of negative feedback, I try to balance it out by remembering what went well. It's about focusing on your wins, even the small ones. For example, when I get a critical comment, I make sure to reflect on how much progress I've made. I might look back at my first video and compare it to my latest one and say, wow, I've improved so much since then. That helps me focus on growth instead of getting stuck in negativity. You can also surround yourself with supportive people. When criticism gets tough, reach out to friends, mentors, or people who get where you're coming from. Talk it out. Let them remind you of your strengths and capabilities. Sometimes all it takes is a little encouragement to remind you that you're on the right path. And don't forget to celebrate these small victories along the way. Every time you handle criticism well, give yourself credit for it. Each small win builds your resilience, making you stronger for the next challenge that comes your way. You've probably heard the phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, when it comes to criticism, the same concept applies. Criticism doesn't break you unless you let it. Criticism is an opportunity to grow through it, not despite it. When you choose to embrace criticism, you're choosing to take control of your growth. Instead of seeing it as a setback, treat it like a lesson. Every time you face criticism and handle it well, you're building a new muscle. You're getting better at handling challenges, managing your emotions, and improving your work. Think about it this way. Athletes don't get better by avoiding hard workouts. They get better by pushing through them. In the same way, you'll get better at handling criticism by practicing it, not avoiding it. The more you practice, the more confident you become in your ability to learn from the feedback and grow from it. This might not always be easy, and sometimes the feedback can feel overwhelming. But if you can shift your mindset and really see the potential in every piece of criticism, you'll be amazed at how much you can grow. After all, you're not in this to stay the same. You're in this to grow. Criticism is tough, no doubt, but it's also one of the best tools you can use to grow. If you pause, listen actively, separate your identity from your work, and reframe feedback as an opportunity to improve, you'll find that criticism doesn't have to be something to fear. It can become something you look forward to. If you remember just one thing from today's discussion, let it be this. Don't let criticism define you. Use it to sharpen your skills, build your resilience, and keep pushing forward. Every time you face criticism and come out stronger, you're one step closer to becoming the best version of yourself. And I want to hear from you. What's the hardest piece of criticism you've ever received, and how did you handle it? Drop a comment below and let's talk about how we can all grow from feedback. Let's support each other in this journey. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Keep it real, and I'll see you next time.